Now, I almost spat out my coffee this morning. I saw a rumor that Ripple quietly bought 10% of all the stablecoin payments worldwide. And yes, that sounds insane, right? Well, it actually happened, kind of, anyway. And by the end of this story, you might actually be just as stunned or excited as I am. So here is what went down. It's early August, a time when crypto news usually kind of slows down to a bit of a crawl. Everyone's kind of at the beach, trading volumes are down, and you don't expect any kind of big headlines. But apparently Ripple didn't get the memo. They just dropped a cool $200 million on an acquisition in the middle of the summer. And suddenly the XRP community is buzzing. I mean, as an XRP holder myself, I'm definitely paying attention now. Now, in this video, I'm not just reading you a kind of press release. I'm taking you along on my own little investigation into what Ripple actually did, why it matters, and how it could actually change the game for global crypto payments, and maybe even your XRP holdings. Now, I had questions, of course, I had many of them. Why would Ripple send so much money on or at least spend so much money on a stablecoin company? What does buying 10% of global stablecoin flow even mean? Is this good news or bad news for those people that are rooting for XRP? Well, stick around because I think the answers are going to surprise you. So let's start with that wild headline. Ripple purchased 10% of the global stablecoin payment flow. Now, when I first read that, I thought, okay, how can you buy a percentage of payment flow? Did they just corner some part of the market? It kind of sounded like someone on crypto Twitter was just exaggerating. I mean, come on, it's crypto Twitter. Exaggerating? They never do that, right? Well, the claim kind of came from a well-known XRP community member who goes by the name of Wrath of 𝗗𝗄𝗰. And he basically summed it all up that Ripple's latest move was just a spicy take. And as dramatic as it might sound, it's actually not that far off reality. Now, here is the deal. Right, Ripple agreed to buy a company called Rail for $200 million. Now, Rail isn't some random startup. It's a payments platform that uses stablecoins to move money around the world fast. In fact, over the last 4 years, Rail built what they claim is the fastest way to settle international business payments using stablecoins. And they're not small potatoes either. Rail is reportedly on track to process over 10% of all global B2B stablecoin transactions this year. And yes, you heard that right. One little company handling 10% of the world's stablecoin business payments. No wonder that people are saying that Ripple just grabbed 10% of global flow. By buying Rail, Ripple basically just took over that pipeline. So you might be thinking, what's so special about Rail? Well, let's think about it as a kind of bridge between traditional money and the crypto stablecoins for businesses, right? It offers some things, or at least things like virtual accounts and automated back office tools that actually make using stablecoins in business as easy as a normal bank account. Essentially, Rail built the plumbing. There's that unsexy but important concept again, and that kind of lets companies send funds across borders via stablecoins without needing to worry about all of the crypto technical stuff. It's kind of like they created a new set of rails, pun totally intended of course, for money to actually move on. And now Ripple owns those rails. And let me put, or at least just put 10% of, global stablecoin payments into perspective. Now, according to the information that I found, in 2025, the total volume of business payments done via stablecoins globally is estimated to be $36 billion. Rail alone handled over 10% of that, which is about $3.6 billion in transactions. That is pretty huge. For one company to manage a double-digit chunk of a whole sector like that is a big deal. So Ripple didn't just buy a tech startup. They're buying a significant market share in a stablecoins payments world. Now, here's a quick refresher. Stablecoins. If you're new to the term, stablecoins are basically tokens that are pegged to something stable, usually the US dollar. So think USDT, which is Tether, or USDC, which is Circle's stablecoin. Each token is just meant to represent one $1. Now, the beautiful thing here of stablecoins is that they actually let you zip money around the world 24/7 within minutes, right? Without the kind of roller coaster, price swings of Bitcoin or XRP or any other coin. Now, this makes them super useful for things like remittances or paying suppliers overseas, you kind of name it. And businesses, they kind of caught on. Now, stablecoins are evolving from this kind of niche crypto thing to a bona fide payment infrastructure for companies. Now, in fact, a report even noted that this trend is less about crypto speculation and more about upgrading the plumbing of global finance. And I love that analogy. It's kind of like they're replacing old pipes with new blockchain pipes. And guess who wants to be the plumber in the sheaf, right? That is, of course, Ripple. Now, Ripple's president, Monica Long, said it herself. Stablecoins are quickly becoming the cornerstone of modern finance. She basically hinted that the Rail acquisition positions Ripple to drive the next phase of innovation and adoption of stablecoins in global payments. So in plain English, Ripple sees where the puck is going, and they're skating there. Now, if stablecoins are the future of moving money, Ripple wants to be at the center of the action. So, Ripple is basically thinking if stablecoins are going to be the main vehicle for payments, they want to kind of be building the highways or railways in this particular case that those vehicles actually drive on. Now, they already have a big payments network and a ton of regulatory licenses around the world to keep things compliant. Seriously, right? Ripple boasts something like 60 plus licenses globally, and they, or at least so they can operate in all of those different countries without breaking any of the rules, right? That is a huge moat that not many crypto companies actually have. So by acquiring Rail, they actually add even more firepower here. Things like those virtual accounts that let businesses use crypto without actually holding crypto themselves, automated back-end systems to make everything seamless. It's all that good stuff. Now, imagine you're a big company that wants to pay suppliers in another country. Now, you could go through the banks, slow, fees, business days only, right? Or you could use stablecoins. With Ripple plus Rail, theoretically, you could fire off a stablecoin payment on Friday night and it arrives within minutes later. And you wouldn't even have to figure out how the crypto wallets or conversion rates work. Ripple's system would handle it all behind the scenes, legally and cleanly. Now, that's the vision that they are going for. Now, I find all of this rather fascinating because for the longest time, Ripple, and by extension XRP, the cryptocurrency, was pitched as a way to do cross-border payments faster than the banking system. Now, XRP, the token, was supposed to be the bridge currency that banks could use instead of something like Swift. But stablecoins kind of approach that same problem, but from a slightly different angle. If everyone just uses digital dollars, a stablecoin, on a fast blockchain, maybe you don't even need a bridge currency for many cases. Now, that thought has definitely crossed my mind many times, and stablecoins are a threat, or at least are they a threat to XRP's use case? So here is where the story gets even more interesting, and where I had a little bit of an internal debate with an XRP investor. Now, initially, I'm kind of worried, right? If Ripple is kind of putting so much into stablecoin tech, does that mean that they're shifting away from using XRP for payments? Like, are they actually just hedging their bets? And it's kind of a fair question here because, I saw one more detail, I guess, that actually put me at ease anyway, right? Now, Ripple isn't just ditching XRP altogether. In fact, part of this stablecoins payments plan actually involves XRP under the hood. They specifically mentioned that their platform will support payments across various different digital assets, including RLUSD, that's Ripple's own USD stablecoin, and XRP itself. So did you catch that, right? Ripple has its own stablecoin, RLUSD, launched just last year, right? And of course, they still have XRP, and they intend to use both. Basically, Ripple is saying, use whatever makes sense for you guys, right? Dollars, stablecoins, XRP, monopoly money. Okay, well, maybe not the last one, right? We'll move it for you, right? That's basically what they're saying. And the fact that they'll explicitly include XRP there means that XRP is still very much in the mix. Now, my take here is that stablecoins might just handle the front end, what customers and businesses send and receive, while XRP could still play a role in the back end for liquidity liquidity and moving value where direct fiat stablecoin corridors just don't exist. It's kind of like having both cash and a secret kind of wiring service working together hand in hand. And if we have to talk about, at least we should actually talk about Ripple's own stablecoin, because RLUSD is quite important. So let's talk about it for a second. And yes, Ripple has a US dollar stablecoin now. And if you didn't know, they actually launched it in late of 2024 on the XRP ledger. It is pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar. It's still relatively new, but it is growing. Last time I checked, it's even managed to climb up to the top 10 stablecoins by market capitalization. Now, Ripple went so far as to partner with the Bank of New York Mellon, BNY Mellon, one of the oldest banks in the United States. And they're using those guys to custody the reserves for RLUSD. So that's a big credibility boost. I mean, getting a traditional bank to hold your crypto stablecoin reserves, that's just like the old guard shaking hands with the new. So clearly, Ripple is covering all its bases then. XRP, stablecoins, banking partnerships, you name it. And by now, or at least now, by buying Rail, they actually also get the actual infrastructure and client base that is already moving billions of dollars in stablecoins. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I first started kind of piecing all this together, the crypto investor in me just got really excited. I mean, Ripple owning 10% of a major new financial pipeline, it kind of sounds bullish as heck for the whole XRP ecosystem. Now, I caught myself kind of daydreaming, like, should I be buying more XRP before everyone else kind of catches on? And yes, I'd likely do that on Kraken Pro since it is my go-to exchange. Here's full disclosure for you guys though. The link to Kraken Pro in the description is an affiliate link that supports the channel. But then, of course, my common sense does kick in, and it reminded me it's time to probably get a reality check and a bit of a disclaimer. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, which we had to do, let's get back to the story. So, what's the kind of net here? Well, Ripple is doubling down on being the top dog in the crypto payment space. Monica Long is hyped about stablecoins, as we saw. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO, is clearly hyped too. He was on Twitter, or X, or whatever we're going to be calling it now, basically saying that he's excited about it, and he is, and that Ripple itself is full speed ahead, even in an otherwise dull month. Now, you've got to love that sly kind of grin at the kind of competition, like while everyone else is snoozing, Ripple is just making moves. And the CEO of Rail, the company that Ripple is buying here, had his own kind of bragging rights moment as well. He pointed out that Rail has been killing it in the global B2B remittances over the past few years, and that by this year, Rail is expected to handle over 10% of that $36 billion stablecoin market. It's kind of like he's saying, look, we're already doing, at least we're already doing in the stablecoin world what Ripple has been doing in the remittance world. It's a match made in heaven, if you ask me. And the tech and the market share in stablecoin transfers. The other has the kind of network and the liquidity and, well, the $200 million in cash, apparently. Now, from a kind of strategic standpoint, this acquisition actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. Now, Ripple's got a war chest for just these things. They've invested over $3 billion in acquisitions so far. And yes, I had to double check that number. That was billions with a B. Now, grabbing Rail is part of just a similar pattern. They also acquired a crypto-friendly broker called Hidden Road for $1.25 billion not that long ago, one of the biggest deals in crypto. Now, Ripple's basically saying, hey, we can't just build it fast enough, right? We'll just buy it instead. It's rather aggressive, right? But given how quickly the crypto landscape moves, I don't blame them. You either keep innovating or you become irrelevant. Now, another rather interesting angle is compliance, right? We all know how crypto has been a bit of a tug of war with the regulators. Ripple has fought its own battle battles with the SEC. It's clearly playing the long game of being the compliant crypto payments company, right? Over 60 licenses globally, remember? Now, they can brag about being regulated and legit in a way that many other crypto startups simply cannot. Now, that's going to be at least a big selling point, I guess, when it comes to approaching banks or enterprises to use this stablecoin network. It's kind of like they're saying, hey, we get it, right? We all need to follow the rules. We already have all of the licenses. We've done the homework. Why don't you come on board? So not only do they have the tech and now more market share, they've got the green light in many jurisdictions to actually use it. Now, this combination is pretty powerful. Technology plus compliance plus an established network effect. So I was just trying to explain this move to a friend who's not really into crypto. I said, imagine if Visa bought a startup that handles 10% of all digital dollar transfers globally. That would turn heads, right? Well, that's basically what Ripple did in the crypto world by buying Rail. Now, it might not make the front page news in mainstream media, but trust me, this is a big deal in the industry. Now, you bet this had a lot of people talking, right? On our free Discord server, shout out to you awesome free educational Discord community folk, link of course is in the description, people were debating. Does this mean that Ripple's becoming the next Swift, or is it more like they're actually building a crypto equivalent or the kind of ACH network for stablecoins? Plenty of questions here. Some were skeptical, like, isn't this just Ripple spending money to stay relevant? Others were a little bit maybe more optimistic. This could be the onboard of a ton of new businesses to Ripple's ecosystem. Now, I think both have some truth here, right? It is Ripple making sure that they're not left in the dust, because if stablecoins are eating the world of payments, well, Ripple wants a seat at the table, right? But it's also true that if this works, it could bring a whole lot of volume and users into Ripple's orbit, possibly even indirectly boosting XRP's usage. Now, one comment that stuck with me was someone saying Ripple is becoming chain agnostic, right? They don't care if value moves via XRP or a stablecoin as long as it's moving through their channels. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly it, right? It's about being the pipeline, not necessarily the product, right? I think Ripple's realized that to achieve their mission of moving money like information, they need to support whatever form money wants to take, whether that's a central bank digital currency, a stable coin, or a good old-fashioned crypto like XRP, right? Maybe even things like NFTs or tokenized assets in the future. Who knows? Now, we should temper our excitement with some reality checks though, right? Besides the one that I mentioned earlier, that disclaimer, the first is actually that this deal isn't closed just yet. It's expected to finalize by the fourth quarter of 2025, pending regulatory approvals. There's also, always a chance I should say, that some regulator somewhere could throw a wrench in the works. But given Ripple and Rail both seem quite compliance focused, I doubt that there's any major issues here. Still, nothing's final until the ink dries and the lawyers give it a thumbs up. Second, just because Ripple will own a company processing 10% of stablecoin flows doesn't guarantee XRP's price will moon or anything, right? Sorry to break it to you moon boys out there, right? The market will want to see actual increased usage, revenue, and over time. But of course, as someone who has followed Ripple for many years, I view this as a long-term bullish sign of health for the company and its ecosystem. It's like infrastructure investments. It's boring today, sure, but crucial tomorrow. And third, his competition is still out there, right? Other companies are doing some pretty cool stuff with stablecoin payments too. For instance, Circle, the company behind USDC, has been partnering with banks and fintechs to push USDC for cross-border transfers. And there are some decentralized protocols aiming to make trustless stablecoins swaps. Now, Ripple will of course have to integrate Rails smoothly and keep innovating to stay ahead, but given their track record and budget, apparently, I'm actually cautiously optimistic. Plus, let's not forget the macro environment, right? Regulators globally are starting to lay down the rules for stablecoins. The US is working on laws, Europe, of course, has the MiCA, etc., right? Now, this could either boost Ripple if regulations favor players who are already compliant, or pose challenges if new rules create hurdles. However, the fact that Ripple is making these moves now, during a relatively quiet period in crypto, it kind of shows that they're positioning themselves for when the tides turn. Now, they're not just waiting for the next bull run, they're actually just building it right now. And so for me personally, I think the key takeaways from this little adventure is that sometimes the biggest developments in crypto aren't flashy token launches or price pumps, but they are the kind of behind the scenes building, right? A payments company, buying another payments platform might not sound as thrilling as XRP to $100, but in terms of real world impact, this is the stuff that gets me excited as an investor who cares about utility. Now, in a way, I kind of feel like we're watching Ripple evolve from just a company that uses XRP to move money into something much broader, a full-scale crypto fintech that handles dollars, stablecoins, crypto, all of it, whatever it takes to get the job done. It's kind of like watching your favorite band go from playing small gigs to headlining at a festival, right? The scope just gets much bigger. And if they kind of pull it off, maybe one day using a stablecoin to send money abroad will be as common as sending an email, and you won't even realize that Ripple's tech is doing all the heavy lifting in the background. Now that's the kind of future that they're actually betting on. And hey, maybe that means good things for XRP too, because a rising tide lifts all boats, as they say. So if more money is flowing through Ripple's network, there's a good chance that some of it will involve XRP for liquidity or other services, which could drive demand. But I'm going to stop myself before I kind of start speculating way too much here. Remember, there's no guarantees in crypto. So, to wrap it all up, Ripple just spent $200 million to make sure that it owns a big slice of the future of payments. Now, whether you're an XRP holder or just a blockchain nerd like me, that is pretty darn interesting. It shows that the crypto industry isn't hibernating, it's actively building the infrastructure for the next era of finance, even when things seem quiet. And ironically, by using and buying Rail, Ripple actually literally bought some rails for money to actually move on. You can't actually make this stuff up. So if you've enjoyed this little journey, hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and check out the video that's queued up over there. I'll see you all in the next one.